Except it appears that I didn't have an option to record a particular screen.
Okay, don't worry. I think we're good.
Okay.
It says recording. Yeah, I see it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Corinne from the Tompkins Square Library on 10th Street between Avenue A and B. Thank you so much for coming tonight. And I'm very excited for our special guest, Grant Shaffer, who I just recently got to know. And I'm looking forward to learning more about him tonight. And I just want to, before I turn it over to Grant, tell you a little bit about him. I know some of you are friends and followers, and some of you might be people who come to the library and don't know much about him yet. So Grant Shaffer, I'm just going to read from my notes here, is a local East Village illustrator and artist and has lived and worked here for the past 25 years. His comic series, New York Sea, which can be found on the E.V. Grieve blog and Instagram, which is actually how I learned about Grant on E.V. Grieve, captures his observations of daily life in New York City, mostly in the East Village, accompanied with captions like someone walking on East 14th Street obscured by a plant, footprint on the 6 train window, or go-go boy tipped with a Metro card. Sometimes the comics, nearly 400 panels and counting, feature bits of conversation overheard on the street, or they tackle politically charged events of the day. Besides drawing New York Sea, Grant also draws storyboards for films and music videos. Films like Angels in America, Zoolander, Meet the Parents, and Charlie Wilson's War. And his editorial work has been featured in newspapers and magazines such as The New Yorker, The New York Times, Interview Magazine, Airmail Weekly, and The Huffington Post. He has illustrated several children's books for Penguin Random House and has 12 solo gallery exhibitions of paintings and photography. He currently teaches an illustration course at the School of Visual Arts, as well as general art at the Hetrick Martin Institute. So that being said, I think we can all agree that we're very excited to have Grant here with us tonight. And Grant has been kind enough to prepare a lot of work for us to look at while he's talking about his work, his inspirations, his background, all that stuff. So Grant, if you want to go ahead and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Sure. Thanks, Corinne. I probably should share with everybody that our plan that if the power cuts out, I'm going to run the 2 blocks from here to the library and arrive windswept and out of breath. We'll just continue from there. But so yeah, I'll just share my screen here.
Yeah, Grant and I spent a lot of time making emergency plans for tonight. So we are prepared for almost anything short of a meteor strike.
Exactly. That would be that'd probably be a good show. So yeah, I just put together some slides, and I'm going to focus primarily tonight on the NYC comic and just the comic that revolves around stuff I see in the East Village, keep it local. But I just thought I'd share a few things of other art that I do and other kinds of illustration. In this first page, this is an example of my storyboarding for films. And it's just a couple pages, one from Zoolander and one from a movie called Species. And it's just an example of how, before you shoot a movie, you'll lay out the scenes and compose them through storyboards usually, and just get an idea of the composition and how it's going to flow and how it's going to work, so that you don't arrive on the set that day and have to figure it all out. You can work it out beforehand. And I usually describe storyboards for films like a comic book version of the movie. And you don't storyboard every scene in every movie, but anything that's maybe complicated to figure out or explain, you might want to work it out that way. It's not moving. There we go. This is an example of some editorial work. And I just included, people seem to be interested sometimes in the rough drafts I'll do or the thumbnails. So on the left are some rough sketches. I was limited. They wanted just a headshot of this person for this article. So I just did a few versions of playing with the hair, different angles of the head, different shirts, things like that. And I went with the lower middle frame here for this drawing.
Grant, you show on that slide, it looks like there's 6 sketches on the left. Is that all of them that you did, or were there more, or is that kind of a typical amount of sketches that you would do for something like that?
I don't remember if that was, I mean, sometimes I probably do at least 6, but knowing me, I'm a bit neurotic when I do these thumbnails. Like I'll probably do 15 or, you know, as many as, the more time I have, the more I seem to do. It's almost better for me when I have less time because I just sort of crank them out more quickly. And,
Yeah.
but yeah, I like to kind of work out all the different kinds of ways you can possibly do this, and for me at least. This is another example of editorial art, and this is for 2 op-ed drawings. And the op-ed drawings are usually really time sensitive, time limited. Where I think, I forget which one of these I got a call. I was up in Midtown. I got a call saying, "Can you do this? Here's the article. Here's the idea. Here's the story. Can you come up with an idea for this op-ed piece?" And I had to do my thumbnails in the cab home, text them off or send them off, and then do the drawing in the next 2 or 3 hours. And again, it's kind of an adrenaline rush, but I think I work better that way actually, when things are just things are moving quickly.
Yeah.
If someone says, "Hey, we've got 3 weeks to do this," I'll probably wait 2 weeks, 6 days, and 20 hours to start working on it.
Yeah, I think
this is
a
an
lot of
example.
us can identify with it.
Yeah. No, I like a little pressure to get things moving. But you can relate. This is just an example of some gouache paintings. I used to do more of like editorial work. And also I put it in here just to prove that I do love color. I do like to use color sometimes, but and this is a page from one of the children's books we were just talking about before we came on, with Maria, who's here today. Maria is my amazing publisher, editor who works at Random Penguin Random House. Sorry, and she guided me through this whole process. But this is an example of another thumbnail and then the final page. And my husband wrote these 2 books. He did a great job writing these. One was The Adventures of Honey and Leon. The other one was Honey and Leon Take the High Road.
I would love to know how it is collaborating with one's partner on a project like that. Your husband wrote the story, you illustrated the books. How does that type of collaboration work?
I can honestly say it was great and seamless, and we had a really fun time doing it. And I was happy to hear that, or not happy to hear, but Maria told me that a lot of couples who work together sometimes end up, not even speaking to each other. So I thought maybe we ignorance was bliss here. We just sort of sailed through it and had a good time.
You didn't know the pitfalls that could come of bringing that into your marriage.
No, I mean, we kept it pretty, like he did his bit, he did his writing, and then I kind of did my thing, and then we looked over each other's shoulders a little bit, but pretty much just did our thing. And yeah, it was great. It was fun. And yeah, this is kind of an example. Sometimes my thumbnail I like better than the final drawing. I like the energy a bit more on the left, but I probably did the one on the right 1,000 times trying to recreate the one on the left, but I never quite. But I like the humor. I think the humor came through. I thought it was fun.
Yeah, it's very expressive.
Yeah, thanks. And this is an example of storyboards for a music video. And again, I just put the thumbnails on the left, the final drawings in the middle, and then the final image from the video on the right. So you can see the whole progression of how this works. And this is usually very quick too. It's usually, meeting one night, doing the drawings the next, and then the 3rd, 4th day there might be shooting.
I know a lot of people will have more questions about working on a video for someone like Madonna. Can you tell us a little bit about the process, your part in the process of making the video?
Oh, like you mean just like from A to Z, how it kind of all comes together, or how?
Yeah.
I have a illustration rep, and she just I'd worked on some other music videos, and she called me and just said, I was living in LA at the time, and this was, God, over 25 years ago. Isn't that crazy? And yeah, they just called up and said, "Are you free this afternoon, this evening?" And I went to the director's propaganda film, and we were, they're kind of figuring out what they're going to do as we're speaking, and I'm taking notes, and it's all kind of mad dash. And then I can't really do this anymore, but I probably stayed up all night for 2 nights and just drew like a crazy person, and then they were shooting next week. But yeah, it's always very by the seat of your pants kind of drawing.
Yeah, that is a bit of a quick turnaround.
Yeah. And then this is another music video. We were focused primarily on the composition and just the contrast of the images, and we did 2 music videos at the same time, which is unusual for the same artist, but they're very different in style. And this is some more editorial work. This is actually, I just got some work today, I think, for this magazine, Airmail Weekly, which I love working for. The one on the left is the Flatiron Building that I drew for in the middle of the pandemic. It was just an idea of, thinking ahead to the days when we're all going to be back together again on the street. The 2 on the right, Venus Extravaganza and Rita Hester, were drawings I did for Pride last year. And the murder of Rita Hester, it sparked the Trans Remembrance Day. I thought that was appropriate for Pride. I wanted to have her there in the magazine. Oh, and I just want to point out, I don't know if you can see my pointer, but on the left, this little tiny cupola that we've all seen next to the Flatiron Building. When I first moved here in '95, that was my studio. And it's a long story how I got that little cupola as my, but I mentioned that because one of the first drawings I ever did when I moved here in that little cupola was this drawing, this drawing from my window, and it was just all the buildings out in New York, and I think it kind of was one of my first drawings of the city, and I thought it was kind of an appropriate drawing to sort of lead into the NYC comics. But I realized I just skipped a frame. This is an example of I like to do photography too, and this is a show I had at La Mama Gallery. And this is just an example of one of the pictures. I like to do a lot of shots of New York City buildings and the negative spaces they create.
Can you tell us, I know you said it's a long story, so maybe you don't want to tell the whole thing, but can you tell us an abbreviated version of how you got that cupola as your studio space?
Okay, I'll give you a very brief version. I got to New York and I learned that my former babysitter was now living in New York City. And her husband was renting out the top floor of that building below the cupola. And I had dinner with her and she just mentioned that building. I said, "Oh, I love that, cupola up there." And she said, "Oh, they can't use it. It's just sort of sitting there. It's more of a decorative sort of piece of the building, but there's actually a room in there. And would you want to use it as your studio?" And I just almost fell off my chair and said, yes. And I realized why no one uses it though, because there's no air conditioning, there's no running water. And I would get in there and it would be probably, 110 degrees. And I'd bring my water and my paints and I would sit up there and it would get so hot I'd be working in my underwear. And I'd realize I was just facing a sea of windows. But it was great. It was a great way to arrive in New York and start drawing.
And so your former babysitter came through for you at that time. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in the Bay Area in California. Okay. And then I was south in San Luis Obispo and then Los Angeles for 7 years. And then, yeah, I've been in New York for over 25 years now. So I kind of went south in California and then just east, and never been here since. Very happily. And this is I put this in here. This is a small paper that ran in New York, in the Lower East Side, I think specifically, in the 90s. And I used to love this paper. It's called The New York Hangover. And I just called them up and said, I do comics and I do illustrations. Would you be looking for some work for your magazine, for your paper? And of course, they had no money. but it was a great way to just start doing some comics. And I'd done some comics in LA, and I'd drawn some comics before, but this was a fun way to get started drawing. And I thought I'd mention this too. It was called NYC, and it was like a more of a narrative strip. But my dear friend Joe Corcoran, he actually thought of the name. I was drawing the comics and I hadn't thought of a name yet, and he thought of the name. So I want to credit Joe Corcoran with the name NYC. And so years later, when I started doing this, my comic here in the East Village, I decided to use the NYC moniker again. And the comic on the left is about Quentin Crisp, and it was just, he was my neighbor and friend. I used to see him all the time, and we'd have, a bite. And I just knew him as this really colorful person, just with these great outfits. I didn't really know exactly who he was, but I just was drawn to him. And I used to watch him. He'd cross across Second Avenue like this, and he wouldn't even look. The cars were all coming. It wasn't his, right of way, and he just put his hand out and start walking into traffic, and all the cars would just screech and honk and come to a stop. And he never would look once that way. He would just cross with his hand out. I saw them do this a bunch of times. And one time I said to him, I said, "Aren't you scared they're going to hit you?" And he said, "They wouldn't dare." And so I drew this comic, and I saw him, the last time I saw him was on the street, and I showed him this comic, and it was the first time and the last time I've ever seen him laugh. And he really liked it. And then he died about 2 days later.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is, I love that story. And you said you would grab a bite, and I have to know, do you remember where or what?
Oh, no, he only ate at one place. It was this, I'm sure a lot of people maybe listening or here today, maybe, what was the name of that diner? It was on 2nd Avenue and 4th Street.
It's
And
the
he would
Cooper
sit in the
Square
window.
Diner.
What's that?
Cooper Square Diner is 2nd Avenue and 5th.
Oh, that's it. That's
And
it.
he had all these acolytes who would just gather around him. And
Absolutely.
Shut up now.
Yeah, yeah. He always sat in the same, like right in the window, chin up. But yeah, I just arrived here, and I just thought, wow. The first time I met him, I said, he was sitting alone, and I just said, "Would you mind if I drew you?" And he said, "Not in the slightest." And so I just started doing drawings of him, and that's how he kind of.
Can I just say one more thing? That
Sure.
he listed his phone number. I think it was too cheap to have it unpublished. But when I found that out, I was in a psych ward in New Haven.
Uh-huh.
I called him from a payphone, and
Oh,
he
wow.
talked to me.
Oh,
So anyway,
yeah. He was very, very open person and very easy to talk to.
Thank you, Beth, for sharing.
Yeah. And so now I'll just dive in, and this is the NYC strip from today. And I do want to thank John from Evie Grieve. I don't know if he's here, but John started posting my NYCs, and it's really a great platform that's really, I've always loved Evie Grieve, the blog. If you guys don't follow it, you should really, it's just a great take on the East Village and the news and quirky updates and everything. And it's just eviegrieve.com. But I want to thank Evie Grieve and John for always being a supporter of NYC. And this is the very first NYC I ever drew, the very first one. And I'm sure, like all of you, just walking around this city, I just love hearing bits of conversation. I'm always writing down like little overheard streams of conversation. And who knows what Angie was saying or what she was doing, but I thought that was funny out of context. This is another NYC that it's just exactly what it looks like. I was on the L train, and there was this tiny little moth, and it was just fluttering around, and everybody was acting like there was a, like a grenade rolling through that. Everyone was running and shrieking, and I just thought that was kind of funny that this little moth was creating this, wreaking havoc on the L train. I tried to make it bigger in the frame, like it's like a, like Mothra.
When you see one of these scenes that make it into NYC, do you feel like right away this is something you want to include, or do you jot down a lot of notes and then decide later? How do you sort of get from because some of these observations are quite minute, right?
Sure.
So how do you know which one to develop?
Oh, that's a good question. You know what I do? I just, on my phone usually, or I have a sketchbook, when I see something, I just write it down and kind of forget about it. And then when I'm going to do a drawing, I just look through my notes. And usually there's one out of, maybe 10 or 15 or 20 that I might think it still kind of resonates with me. So I'll think, okay, I'll do that one. But a lot of them I don't ever do, but I just sort of jot things down like you see on the left. And if I still think it's funny, or if I still like it a week later, I'll probably use it. But that's about it. Usually I kind of like see if it stands the test of time for me. And to your question too, sometimes I'll sneak a photo if I don't feel like it's too invasive, if I'm not gonna, freak somebody out. And this I took from quite a distance, and there was no one between me and this hand, and I thought I could safely kind of capture but I like working from my memory actually, and I like working from a photograph. So either way, it's kind of an interesting kind of way to remember something and illustrate it later. But when I took this photo, I loved seeing the little pinky kind of raised up in the hopefully faux fur cuff. And this is another NYC. I think we've all seen this. I got a lot of comments like, why would someone be doing this and why? And I thought I relate to it because I bet what she's doing is, I bet the vet wanted, to see something, or maybe that's TMI, but.
So are you naturally sympathetic towards your subjects like that? Some people might think, okay, this woman is being totally crazy, but you know she's got a good reason behind what she's doing. Do you feel like you're sympathetic?
I thought it made total sense. I thought, oh yeah, I assume I know what she's doing. Maybe she's, she's got a whole art show she's doing about dog shit. I don't know, but I assume she was just doing it for like medical reasons but I see things that I think look totally normal to me, but I think when I take it out of context, it's going to be maybe funny, or it's going to be a little more entertaining. Because I think that's what a lot of these are, just actually normal things we all see, but just out of context. Actually, on that note, I hope this isn't something you guys see or hear a lot. This is just a guy that walked by, and my friends and I were standing there, and he just called us faggots. And I just thought I would, it's not always about something funny or something. I just wanted to notate that. And that's an example, or this is like a thumbnail sketch on the left. And then this is what I was talking about, where I'll do 15, 20 drawings over and over again. And I'm really looking for, an immediacy of line. And I'm looking for a looser drawing than if I spend too much time on something, I start tightening up and going a bit towards the side of realism, which isn't something I'm really interested in for myself. And so I like trying to just play with the illustration as I go, and just going back later and picking out one that I think captures something that I'm after. So you can see on the lower left, that's the one I went with. And then I drew in the background later, separately, I mean. I bet we've all seen this too. I just love the idea that someone yelling at an inanimate object.
Yeah, that could have been me. I'm not sure. I mean, the clothes look a little bit like something I would wear.
Well, there you go. Gotta be great if someone here tonight said, "Oh wait, that was me." I will say sometimes I don't think this was like something that was embarrassing for someone, but if I do feel like it's bordering on something that could embarrass someone, or I'll change even the sex of I'll change the look of the person, the location, just to make sure that there's no trail to one specific person.
I mean, rage at a subway turnstile is something I think we identify with.
Oh yeah, well, especially when the train's just arriving in the station and you're late and your card's not working. It's pretty maddening. Oh, and this is the go-go boy tipped with a Metro card. I remember seeing this thinking that could be a really generous tip, like maybe the Metro card's loaded with $40 And I thought, I hope it's not like a blank Metro card.
Well, that's the thing with this tip, is that you don't know if it's a good or bad tip until the next time you go to the machine to check it. So
Exactly.
the answer doesn't really know.
I should have followed up and said, how, good or bad.
They
Well,
could have used a spent Metro card that they had just used up.
I'm sorry?
They could have given them a spent Metro card that they had used up.
I know. That's what I was afraid of. I was like, I hope, it was all good though, because everyone had a good laugh. Even the Go-Go Boy thought it was pretty hilarious. So just in that in itself, I thought was a fun moment. And this is somebody just, I think we're all maybe a little guilty of, when I walk around, at night, I just love, it's almost like theater, like these brightly lit up windows, and you'll see little bits of stories going on. And this was someone getting ready to go out, a few stories up.
I'm impressed actually by people's willingness to not use curtains in the city.
Oh, yeah.
It's impressive to me every time I see it.
Yeah. I make a point. I don't obviously like stand in their window, and this was a few stories up, and I just kind of made a mental note. But yeah, I love, especially I feel like on the weekends where I saw a room with it 2 nights ago. I took a video of it because it was like someone like 4 stories up, and it was in the middle of the night, and it looked like must have had 5 disco ball. The room was just, the window was just shooting out, emanating light and disco lights, and it was like a club in someone's apartment. It was amazing, and it was just shooting out into the night. And it's a little more sobering frame. That was just, how the Empire State Building goes dark when it's honoring a moment or an event. This is what we were talking about when I had never really drawn political cartoons before, and I think just most of us will agree, like the last 4 years were just, it got to the point, I think, during the last election cycle, where I couldn't even stand to just draw like a cute, overheard or something I saw on the street. I just was so consumed by the horror show of the Republican Party and Trump and all that. So I just thought, I'm just gonna, since that's all I'm thinking about, I'm just gonna start drawing that. And I also thought, in my own little way, I thought maybe it could be helpful in some way, where I sell these prints, and I just would use the money I got from anything related to Trump, or I would just donate all the money to various political charities, lefty political charities. And this was, you can probably imagine, this was, Trump kept saying he could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and they'd still love him. And so when the COVID deaths reached 200,000, my mind immediately went to, what if he had, I think he was to blame for so many of these deaths. And I thought, what if I just added the 200,000 figure to his shooting someone on Fifth Avenue.
You mentioned how it's difficult sometimes to focus on more lighthearted things when there's things which are, sort of weighing down all of our minds, like this. Does working on the artwork help you process things in a way? Is it some way for you to sort of get your emotions out? Do you feel better afterwards or not?
I think absolutely. I think, again, it's such a small thing in the big picture, but I just, instead of just, staring out a window and thinking of, doomsday, just to be kind of doing something active. And it's amazing when you do something like this, inevitably, like, people start reaching out to you and other organizations, and can we use this comic for this thing, and and you can just feel like it's a tiny little ripple effect of hopefully going out to the collective consciousness and making some little dent somewhere, and just raising some money. I actually felt really good about raising some money and hopefully helping in some way. But yeah, it felt good to I love to draw, and I thought to use my drawings in some way to do something. Yeah, I did, and this is another from the Black Lives Matter rallies. I just thought this was a good sign to echo. And good today on the anniversary of the Tulsa massacre. Probably could run this every day, fortunately. And I think everyone knows what this one is about. There was that, when DeJoy was head of the, or God, he still is, head of the post office. And there was that moment I just started noticing where the post box, the mailboxes were in the East Village. And I was really looking at them thinking, are they going to be taken away at any moment? Are they going to, I think I felt that on the street. I felt we were all kind of looking at them like it was one of our kids, that we were just all sort of, I don't know what we would have done if a truck pulled up and tried to uproot it. I think we would have, I don't know. But I just tried to tap into that moment that maybe, I just tried to exaggerate a bit where everyone's staring at this mailbox, hoping it doesn't get taken away. This I see all the time. I always think it's hilarious. People, and this is when it was sub-zero temperatures in the city, and I just love when someone's walking around in shorts, and I think good for you.
There are a certain group of people who are in the never pants category, shorts all year.
Yeah, no, I think, bravo.
There's the pantsless subway ride that a group of people put together once a year.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe this guy was there. This is an example of, I kind of changed the look of the person and where the person was. I didn't want to in any way embarrass somebody, but I just thought it was a fun image.
Someone in the chat has commented on your use of pink. You seem to use a lot of pink in these comics. Is there a reason or anything like that?
Yeah, actually, I mean, most of it, the black and white ones, I did the black and white ones first for about a year, and then I just purposely chose to do monochromatic colors just so they'd be really quick, and I wouldn't have to. I could knock these out as fast as possible. So that's pretty much my reasoning. It's just I like the color, and I just thought I'm just going to go first black and white, then pink, and then the last about month or two I've been using full color, and I'll show you an example of that soon. But I've slowly kind of built up back to full color. But I did. They were going to do a book of these, and they asked me. I was doing black and white, and they asked me if I could add some color, and I just started doing these pink monochromatic colors. Maybe because I grew up in a pink house, that's why I decided to. This I always think, I don't know, but I bet you guys will agree, but I always think it's just hilarious when I see someone, or maybe not hilarious, but a little gross, but when I see someone just eating, especially just something about a salad in the locker room of the YMCA, when everyone's kind of walking around. And I love this guy was acting like, he was just dining in a restaurant and enjoying a salad. And I thought, was the salad in your locker the whole time? Was it?
I once walked around the corner in the Jefferson Market Library when I was a librarian there, and found a man eating a full plate of spaghetti. It wasn't, in a Tupperware or anything. It was a full plate sauce. He was sitting down as if it was sitting down to his Sunday dinner. And I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
This isn't the right place to eat spaghetti.
Oh, no. Well, now you're making, I wish I had gone over to this guy with like a towel over my arm and just said, can I get you anything else? Or, it just, I just thought it was hilarious. I didn't really mind it. I just thought it was funny. But yeah, I love kind of people eating in strange places. This is another example of the thumbnail on the left. And this is my friend Rob in the East Village said this. This is a quote he said, and a lot of people don't know that gay men aren't allowed to donate blood. It's not accepted. And during the COVID crisis, I had so many friends that had COVID and they had antibody-rich blood, and they weren't allowed to donate their blood. And they lowered it to as long as men didn't have sex with men for a year, they could donate blood. And then they lowered it to 3 months during the pandemic. But then my friends that tried to donate said, even though they announced that, they still wouldn't accept their blood, which I just thought was maddening. But I just thought it should be, the question shouldn't be, are you gay? It should be, are you having, unprotected sex, or that it should be more about your behavior, not who you are. So I don't actually know how that's changed, if that's still in effect, or. This is just, I thought it was funny on Avenue, and a mannequin head. There's my drawing on the left, and then my. And here's an example of the full color frames I'm doing now. And I'm using a different typeface on the top.
This is another one that I think might be me.
Yeah. Would you want Avenue B with a? I know, I thought it was so sweet. She was just cradling it like it was the most precious cargo, and I thought it was a really sweet kind of funny moment. These are some of the NYCs. I was contacted by Link NYC, and they just asked if I would be willing to have my drawings on their kiosks, and I thought that'd be really great. It was so fun to see them all up and running around the city. I never got used to it. I kept turning a corner, and I would just be shocked when I'd see one of my drawings somewhere.
Yeah, that is very, very cool. It must be sort of unnerving when you see your drawing, so sort of like yourself up on the kiosk.
Yeah, well, you're in a hurry and you're late, you're running for something, and then it just as you're running by, it appears it's kind of a weird dream where your drawings are all kind of on these glowing boxes around the city.
Do you think, Grant, that this would be a good time to start taking some questions from the audience?
Oh, sure.
Or would you like to go through a few more slides and then take a few questions?
Well, up to you. That sounds great. We can take some questions.
I'm going to look first in the chat box to see if there are any questions that have already been placed that we haven't gotten to. And then others who want to ask a question, you can either raise your hand or start typing things in the chat. I can call on you to speak, or I can read your question for you. So if you want to speak yourself, you can raise your little hand icon. And if you don't want to do that, type it in the chat and I will read it for you. So, oh, you can't raise your hands here? I see someone's raising their hand. Evan, would you like to ask your question first? Go ahead.
Hello, everybody. Well,
Hi.
I'm with Evan. I'm Shishay. I'm a former student protege of Granny Pants.
Oh, hello. Hey, how are you?
I'm good. I was so excited and hearing about this, and also someone who worked with the NYPL for many years, to be here. So it's a few quick questions. I'm curious, one, as it relates to your books, which I felt like, was different from a lot of the body work you do. I'm just wondering, were there any queer references that people didn't know of yourself that carried into the book? I know that you have a dog with your partner. So maybe I could start there, and then I could ask two other little questions.
Oh, sure.
You're muted.
Sorry, Grant. I don't know how that happened.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, it was Russia.
Oh yeah. No, just like even the panel I mentioned where, my friends and I were called faggots. And then I definitely try to include, actually I've drawn a lot of frames of HMI youths at Pride. The drawing of Rita Hester. I think that I have about 400 of these drawings, and if you, I don't know if you've had a chance to look through them, but I can share with you like a
No,
lot.
but I meant as it relates to the books, like the children's book, the Leon books, like where is the
Oh, I
correlation
see.
between yourself and queer identity, or was it like a different area and subject that you wanted to focus on? I know it comes from a personal place of having pets, but
We, you know, what's funny is we really thought about this, where at first we didn't really want the books to be about us. We wanted it to be about the dogs. And so we were just
right,
gonna have our feet going through the frame, and it'd be just all the dogs, the dog story, and it would be all about. And then we both kind of thought, God, I'd hate if kids read this and thought we were hiding, you know, this our gay coupleness from the story that you
because
never
what
see. So then we thought it was important to actually show ourselves. So then all of a sudden I found myself drawing us in the story, and you know, as a gay couple. I mean, the idea was we didn't want the book to, you know, be like we've got two gay, you know, gay dads. You know, we just thought here's us as a couple, two dads, married men with our dogs, and the story's about them, but we're just there.
right. Where I was coming from was like knowing queer authors like Jonathan Van Ness, who's very famous, who like many authors, whether you see in the 1960s or even till now, that kind of use non-humanoids to make references to like human social issues. So like JVN talked about gender expression and play through like a chipmunk and other people. So I was trying to see that connection.
Sure.
On a side note, as a joke, I was showing my friend Evan, you know, your photography, and I'm wondering the picture where it said, quote unquote, canal. I think you know which one I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Was that staged, or it just so happened that you got that picture of those two guys standing next to the race C rest of that word?
Oh, yeah, no, it was just by chance. I was just walking by and I thought,
Wow.
oh, I just love this whole, how this is all coming together. So
Yeah. And then finally, I don't know if this is still true. I know you mentioned to me this once because I used to live near Club Cummings, but the illustration that you've done, right? The painting on the wall.
the
I
mural,
think you
yeah.
told, I don't know if you told me this as a joke or you meant it seriously, where you said if you found 7 pickles that are hidden and you point it out, and if you go to the bartender and you could tell them, you get a free drink. And I think I went once and I told the bartender it was too loud. Either he was probably like, you know what, just get your water and get out of here, whatever it was, or he probably was looking at me like, I don't know who told you that, but I still had fun. You know, I still had like a little Waldo
True.
moment
If
in
you
the club.
find them all, you get a free drink, but no one has ever found them all.
I did. I pointed out. We'll have a sit down. I'll
I think there's 9. There's 9. See, that might be the problem. There's 9.
I know where they're all hidden.
No, it's great to see you, and I
Yes.
love your hair. I love your hair, by the way. I hope I see you soon.
You know, I feel it's so funny you actually did a storyboard of, I'll just finally say, of Zoolander, because I'm telling my friends my haircut looks like Will Ferrell in Zoolander, just
Oh,
in
yeah.
black. But it's hot, it's summer, we need to cut it down. So great to be here. So glad to support you, and
Thanks so much.
looking forward to hearing to everyone else.
I can't wait to see your great artwork. I know you do amazing artwork.
You know, I'm getting there. I'm waiting for my debut at the Schwartzman. So one day, give it a, maybe, hopefully won't have to be like 20, 30 years. We'll figure it out.
Stay at it. Stay at it.
Take care.
You too.
Thank you very much for asking our first question and breaking the ice. And I actually have a related question I see in the chat. And then I'm going to go to Patty, who I see has her hand raised. But there's a question from Teresa that says, what was your process developing the designs for the Club Coming pajama set? I have mine. I adore your visions.
Oh, the club. Yeah, that, I think who was that person? I think they're referring to, I did a mural at Club Cumming on 5th Street between A and B. And they Rock Soup, they're an amazing company who make pajamas and PJs, and they do all this great work. And they took photos of the mural and just made a print out of the mural and made it into pajamas. So if you go to Rock Soup, they're on Instagram or rocksoup.net, I think you can find them, and just order your Club Cumming PJs.
Okay.
I do a bit of that. I sell prints of these works. I sell some clothing. There's some wallpaper now that we have going on, but that's on my website. But that's
Yeah, those are amazing, and I think they're big, great gifts.
oh, great. Yeah, thanks.
I'm going to go to Patty next, and then I'm going to go back to the chat for more questions. Anyone else who wants to raise their hand can raise it. But in the meantime, Patty, you want to?
I just sent you a message. Sorry, when somebody said that it wasn't working, I was like, that's weird, and I tried to hit it and it worked. And so I should have taken it down. Sorry.
Oh no, that's okay. Thank you, because when I saw your hand, I felt relieved that it was working.
Yeah, no.
So thank you.
Yeah, but you're fab, Grant. That's all I'll say.
Oh, thank you.
We have a question from CH in the chat that says, you said that you grew up in a pink house. Please tell us more. And I second that.
That's how I remember it. I remember our house was pink, and my mom said that there was a pink color that was kind of running throughout the town, that a lot of the houses were pink. And there was a name for it. There was a certain name for the color of pink. I'll have to ask her, but yeah, it was a pink house. And then I think that kind of went out of fashion after a while, but this was back in the 60s.
I love that. I love a pink house.
Yeah.
I have another question. Someone, I don't know your name. It just says Moto G7. I can see it looks like you're sitting in the park. You've got your hand raised. You want to unmute? Yeah, that's you. Go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
Hello, hi. My name's Steve.
Hi.
Hey, Steve Siddle.
Oh, hey, how you doing?
Good, man. How you doing? It's
Good.
been great watching this, learning more about all the stuff you did, man. I had blown my mind, brother. You're so talented.
Oh, wow. Thanks so much.
I'm glad I tuned in today. I've just been, I've only known your work since the NYC stuff, and meeting you that time at Symphony Hall in Boston, sitting together.
Yeah.
But I just love it. This loser thing is perfect, and the Fifth Avenue thing is perfect. These were absolutely what I think a lot of us were feeling inside, so.
Oh, thanks.
I just wanted to say, hey, man, peace. I'm glad I learned more about you today.
Oh, thanks. I'm always hoping that, you're thinking something in your head, and when you put it out there, you hope maybe someone else will relate.
Word. Right on.
Thank you.
Peace.
You too.
We have another hand raised. Meije? I don't know if I pronounced your name correctly, but go ahead and unmute.
Hi, I'm Meisha. Hi, Grant. I was just wondering, what is your favorite, what do you use to create these? Is it digital, or do you paint or markers, or what do you use primarily?
Oh yeah, no, it's all hand done. I use watercolor and ink and brush, and I do, again, neurotically kind of draw these out many times, and then I'll take maybe a head from one and a body from one and a background, and I'll digitally put them all together. So I guess it's both. It's hand drawn and digitally drawn, where I like both. I've never quite gotten away from, I love paper and working at a desk and having a tactile, something at the end that I can hold in my hands.
Right.
And but I love being able to digitally go in and sort of, I think back 20 years ago when you'd look at something like, oh, I just wish I could make that bigger, and I wish I could lengthen those arms, and I wish now you can do it. That's how I like to do, like a hybrid.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
We have a follow-up question from Teresa, wanting to know your creative process for the Club Coming mural itself. She says, I know Alan and Liza Minnelli are featured, so how much was from memory or from actual photograph references you had?
I drew in the owners of the bar into there, and the only person I knew who I drew in there besides the owners is Nisham Wooden, who was tragically died from COVID. So I knew it made him really happy to when that was a surprise when he saw it up there, and So I'm glad he's immortalized up on the wall. But everyone else are just from my head. I just made up characters. I did a lot of research of Berlin in the 30s and took a lot from like that kind of era and that vibe and just kind of ran with it and tried to create my own updated version of that kind of feel.
We also have a question from Angie that says, how did you develop your own visual language?
I think people develop their own visual language just by drawing a lot. I think if you just draw all the time, inevitably you're gonna arrive at your own way of drawing and your own way of expressing yourself. And I think a lot of illustrators, we all start looking at other illustrators and illustrators that we like, but ultimately you end up with your own way of doing things. But I think just observation and drawing all the time is gonna is how you find your way and your voice. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
I think so. I don't think I see more questions coming in. I don't know if anyone had another question for Grant. I'll give it a second and see. But in the meantime, I want to let everybody know that this Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern time, we have Sarah Schulman, who's just releasing a new book called Let the Record Show. She's going to be discussing that here with us this Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern. I put the link in the chat, so please sign up. And we do have a couple of more questions. Teresa, you want to say something? Go ahead, just unmute and you can ask your question.
Hi, can you hear me all right?
Oh, sure.
Hi, I just wanted to say thank you for your awesome answers, and that I really admire your visual style and your voice that you bring. I think it's so important that we are able to share our opinions and our values through the expression of art. And I love everything that you do. I've been following you for a couple of years now.
Oh, wow.
And I'm just so excited to be here and see so much more that you've done that I had no idea about. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your time. It's really great to see this. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Thanks so much. Yeah, I'm glad you enjoy the.
Thank you, Teresa. And we have a couple more questions. One from Colleen. Any word on your graphic novel?
That kind of evaporated. I've got to figure that. I think I still want to do a book. I might just do it on my own because I've had two kind of publishers. It just didn't quite work out, and I think I'm gonna maybe go it alone on this and do my own book, which could be kind of fun to just curate it as exactly as I want to. And I'm working on more full length or short stories right now. I'm just starting to wade into those waters. Instead of doing one panel observations, I'm starting to do my own story, my own short stories about things that have happened and gone on in my life. And it just feels like I'm ready. It's time for that. I want to kind of explore that more. And so, but you're right. I probably should get this book together before I start the next body of stories. But,
I do have a quick question. Is that okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Sure.
I'm sorry, Grant. Did you ever meet or do any comics about Anthony, who lived on 9th Street for several years on the ground floor between 1st and 2nd on the south side, and you would recognize his apartment because it was it was a first floor apartment, and it had a big bay window. It was obviously like a shop back in the day, and it was just full of just like instruments and dolls, and it was on the north side of the street. You couldn't miss it. And in the summer when the weather was nice, he would be sitting outside of his apartment, and you would stop and look because people often thought it was a store, and he would invite you into his apartment. I don't know if any other at least longtime East Villagers remember him. He just passed away about 3 years ago.
Between which avenues?
Between 1st and 2nd on 9th Street, just down the street from Veselka, or maybe it was 7th. No, it was 9th. On the south side of the street, ground floor. Anthony,
Okay.
he would invite you in to look at his stuff. He had so much stuff, mostly musical
Anthony.
equipment.
Yeah, I don't think I
Anybody
did.
remember him?
guy was named Anthony, and he was on 7th Street, and he had a trombone in the window.
Yes, yes,
Oh,
yes.
7th Street.
7th
7th
Street,
Street.
first and second.
Okay. That
I
sounds-
just wondered, he was such a, he just was a character in his own right. And I just wondered if you'd ever done anything on him or had known him.
there's so many people. What's funny you mentioned that is these more fleshed out stories that I want to do. I'm thinking of all these. I think we all have neighbors and people that we've known over the years in the East Village, and there's one neighbor in particular I want to do a whole story about. Ted in the 90s. He was 92 in the 90s, and he just had these incredible stories, and I won't give too much away, but I think I want to maybe do a whole story about his life that I came to know. And
I'm
yeah,
looking forward to those short stories.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to do them. So we'll see, but so hopefully you'll find out more about Ted soon. And yeah, and so many people like Anthony. Like there's so many New York stories out there that it's almost hard to narrow down which ones you'd like to tell.
Grant, we have a question from Dan asking, do you have other commissions or an exhibition in the works?
Right now I'm working on a film. I'm doing storyboards for a film, and I'm doing some, I got a call today to do some editorial work. That's kind of like right on my burner right now. And then I think I want to dive into these short stories and start working on those. And which probably won't pay any money, right away, but I really want to do them, and I really want to, make that happen. So I'll probably finish these 2 jobs and then start doing that. And who knows, that's freelance, I'm freelance. So it's just like, you get a call one day and everything sort of changes, and you have a lot of work ahead of you, or you have more time to work on your own stuff, or you have, I'm also teaching. I start teaching my next semester at SVA in 2 weeks. And that's still virtual. Mm-hmm. But surprisingly, I didn't think I would I've been loving it. I've been loving teaching virtually.
Yeah, it has its upsides, I think.
Yeah, I went into it thinking of only the downsides, and I didn't realize there are upsides actually. Mm-hmm. But
yeah, I'm very much looking forward to your short stories. I think, like a lot of people listening now, that sounds fabulous. And we have another question from Arthur. Would you agree your best childhood friend is Hearst Arthur? And is there a reason he hasn't been featured more prominently in your artwork?
I would imagine that's Hearst Arthur speaking.
It sounds like it.
Oh, he might know about the pink houses, yeah.
You might be right, Grant. You just might be right.
I'm saving. I'm doing a whole tell-all book about you. It's gonna. But
it's good to see you.
You too. So now you can answer my question. There was like a pink color in our town, like pink houses, right?
Yeah, there were quite a few.
I think yours was pink. Your house.
No, I think it was beige, actually.
Beige. Ours, yeah, there was like a pink theme in that. I don't know, in that town.
Yeah, kind of a terracotta style or something.
Yeah, like Spanish style homes. It was like in the 60s. I remember it was. I'm gonna get the name of that color from my. Well, great to see you here.
Yeah, it's nice to Zoom you with 50 or 60 other people instead of just the 2 or 3 of us.
Yeah.
No, this has been great, Grant. And but I was somewhat dismayed you didn't mention your hometown. You just said Bay Area.
Well, that's funny. I bet a lot of people in New York relate to this. People always say, like, where are you from? And I say, California. We're in California, Bay Area. We're in Bay Area, near Oakland. It's like you just keep narrowing it down because the town's like 2 square miles. It's very small. No one in the East Coast has ever heard of it. So I just kind of keep, if someone keeps asking, I keep narrowing it down like a little pullback.
I'm just giving you a hard time.
No.
Oh, and I meant to tell you, Grant, I don't think I've ever told you this, but your Club Coming artware, I've got a bunch of it here. I've got glassware. I've got
Fantastic.
Serving tray. Yeah, I've got all kinds of stuff. I meant to, I ordered it. You had it posted a while back on your Instagram page, and I ordered a bunch of it, but I forgot to tell you I had ordered it.
Oh,
Great stuff. I use it all the time.
I'm so glad you did. Thank you. It's
Yeah.
You're helping to keep the bar, you know, like so many businesses during, you know, the pandemic. I mean, I think things like that have really helped to keep, you know, things running, you know, sales of t-shirts and things. I'm not saying that's kept it afloat, but it's just, I'm sure it doesn't hurt to have some things, you know, that are able to sell when everyone's locked away. So thanks for supporting the bar.
You're very welcome. Yeah. Thanks for filling my my kitchen with useful items.
Yeah.
Thanks, Hurst Arthur. I'm looking forward to Grant's unauthorized biography of you.
Yeah. Thank you, Corinne, for accommodating me on that question. I appreciate it.
There's another question from Dan wanting to know more about your coming to New York City.
Oh, just the whole, you know, the truth is I always knew I was going to move here. My mom grew up in New York, and in the 70s and the 80s, we were always coming out here. We had a lot of relatives, and I would just come into the city and I was, you know, really little, and I just knew I was going to move here. And I've talked to other people that live here that had the same experience where I'd have dreams, and my dreams were I was always in New York City. And it was always, even the backdrop was almost like more like a stage set. Like it was like cardboard cutouts of the buildings, but I was always in New York, and I'd see films like Some Like It Hot, and I remember thinking like someday I'm going to move there. I actually thought I'd move here I thought I'd move here in 1990 when I was finished with school, in 1990. And then it took me about 5 more years, and I got here in 95. I'll never forget, I got to New York. I was so excited. And I took my first cab ride as a resident. And I just started blabbing to the cab driver, and, you know, I just moved here. I'm so excited. And he said, I'll never forget, he said, "You missed everything." And I just thought, oh, damn it. But, you know, then you realize that's not true. It's like, you know, I missed his experience of what he, you know, but yeah, you make your own experiences, and you decide when you've missed everything or not. But yeah, there was a lot of adventures to be had since 95. So I'll never forget, that was the first thing someone said to me in the city. You missed everything.
Which is perfect, really.
Yeah.
There's a lot. Go ahead, Grant.
And I even have young people that I work with, and sometimes I always said I never would say that to someone. So sometimes I'll say, "Oh, I wish I got near the 90s. What the 90s like?" I think it's funny when someone says, "What the 90s like?" And I mean it too. I say, you know what? You'll make your own great time, and it's all about what you do with it, like making connections and meeting people, and just make it a good time, make it a great era for you.
Well, Grant, there are a lot of comments in the chat that just thanking you. We'll share the chat with you so you can read all the comments later. A lot of positive comments thanking you for sharing your inspirations and your work with us. And I want to thank you on behalf of Tompkins Square Library.
Sure.
We've really loved having you here tonight, and it's been amazing. So thank you.
I'm so happy to be here. It's been so fun. So
yeah, it really has. And I will be sharing this recording on our YouTube page, so people can watch it again later.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, thanks so much, Corinne. I really appreciate it. And yeah, it's just been a lot of fun. So
yeah, thank you everybody for coming and spending your evening with us.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Good
Have a
night.
good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Grant, and thank you so much.
Good night, Grant. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, thanks, Dan. I see you there.
Take care. See you soon.
Anyone, so
Be on the
That
corner.
was amazing.
Yeah, in the
Thank
corner.
you.
Thanks, Roberto.
Thanks, Grant. This was really awesome.
Yeah,
I gotta
thanks
catch
for.
up soon.
Yeah, I'll catch up soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye, buddy.
Thank you, Grant.
That sounds like Ashtar.
It is Ashtar.
Ashtar. I can't see who's here. That's so
Yeah.
all the way from
How are
London.
you?
Good. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I'll give you a call for a proper chat soon.
I would love that. I would love
It
that.
was so interesting hearing you talk and just the breadth of stuff that you've done. It's given me a real insight into you, actually. Well, I know how, I love your work so much, but that was really interesting, really interesting.
Oh, wow. I loved your work, so I'm blushing a bit. Thank you.
No, that was really, really great. And I really feel like I learned a bit more about you, actually, and about your sort of your eye, the way you that was really good.
Oh, wow. Let's go.
Anyway, I don't know if everybody can still hear or if this is just us now. Anyway, well, look, I'll give it. I'm in bed because I'm, me, I'm such a kind of wuss, but
well, it's 5 hours ahead. So it's
it's about midnight now.
Midnight, and you're an early to bed person, so
yeah.
Well, I'm honored you stayed up for this. So.
Oh no, I found it really interesting, really interesting.
Oh, thanks.
But
thank you.
Well, look, I'll speak to you soon. Yeah, I'll give you a have a proper chat with you. But lots of love to you.
I'd love that. Lots of love.
Thank you for coming,
Bye,
Ashtar.
Grant. Thank you.
And then, are we saying goodbye, or
Yeah, I think we can say goodbye and end the program.
We can have like a staring contest. Ready, go.
Grant, really thank you. It was a lot of fun.
So fun.
And thank you, Kaylee, as well. Really great
Thanks,
to have
Kaylee.
you.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you. It was awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so I will go ahead and end the call.
Okay, we'll talk soon.